How about that? We're going to carry on here with the details of, well, putting this car back together. And I think the next step should be to get the hydraulic clutch system squared away, because if I put everything else together and that doesn't work, then I got to rip the transmission out again. So let's get the hydraulic clutch squared away and make sure it functions, and then we'll move on with everything else. So we've got to get our return hose set up here. So let's go ahead and disconnect that from the barbed fitting on the master cylinder. Gingerly. Why did I put it on there so tightly? All right, so that's just a, I can point that any way I want and then just tighten up the lock nut. So that's cool. I think I'll move it around a little bit and get my angle the way I want it, and then I'll tighten her down. Let me get an open end wrench. So I think I'm just going to go pretty much straight across there. That's a 9/16. And we'll get our hose clamp on here. So convenient. All right, so I've been checking the length on my hose here, and we need to take a smidgen off of here. So we want our hose routing to be, you know, efficient and not overly tawdry. Love that word. Probably not applicable here, but I don't really care. All right, you want to be careful with that reservoir. It's just a plastic job there, so might be a little delicate. And we want to position our clamp in a way that will be easy to service if we ever need to. So, all right, there we are. That's our return hose right there on the clutch master cylinder. And that kind of zips around there like that. Doesn't touch anything. Nice straight shot up to the reservoir. All right, time to bleed the hydraulic clutch. So I've got the reservoir, you know, got some fluid in there, and the little balloon thingy is not in there. That goes in there like that. That takes up a lot of room. The instructions say once you're done, it should be filled up about 1/3 of the way, somewhere in that neighborhood. So, yeah, anyway, that's kind of interesting. Anyway, I'm waiting on the other half, the better half, to come out here and be the pedal pumper for the old man here. So anyway, we'll get all set up. We'll be right back. All right. Stand by. I could take a nap under here. Let me take off this wrist brace so I can do something. Say okay when you get near the bottom of the travel of the clutch. Okay. All right, go. All right, we're going to start again. All right, stand by. Yes, release the clutch slowly. Yeah, you already released it? Yeah, but okay, it's fine. Go ahead. All right, you can stop. Release it slowly. All right, go. All right, stop. And then release it slowly. I need to get up there and look at the reservoir and see how much fluid I need to add to it. Yeah, well, it's, to be honest, the seat is needs adjustment. So, all right. So we'll just place that on there like that. This is actually working quite well. All right, go ahead. I don't think we're going to need to add any with that big old balloon thing sticking in there. Let's see how this is going to work out here. Yep, ooh, look at that. Perfect, all right. Doesn't have to be down real tight because there's a vent hole in it for airflow. Let me, a little spillage right there. All right, let me hop in there and see how it feels. And we got some pretty good pressure near the bottom. That's a lot stiffer than it was. It feels pretty good, in my mind. I don't hear any squeaking or stuff like that. But I've got this shifter in here kind of mocked up. Listen to this. That's neutral. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, reverse. Sounds like you're shifting a rifle bolt. It's pretty cool. Yeah. All right, we're done for the day. All right, we got to the point where we're ready to put our new drive shaft in, and we're at step number 23. We've already put the bolts in the bottom of the mount for the transmission. We've already got the shifter mounted underneath the car as well. I guess I didn't really show you that earlier, but I did that off camera. And we got the shifter in place, got it bolted up, dust cover back on, got the shifter itself mounted in there temporarily. This goopy stuff right here is just Permatex Ultra Grade. Pretty instructions to cover up all the little gaps in the dust cover so we don't get any road debris inside that. Next step here is to remove the rubber sleeve from the output shaft. See D2 on page 5. So we're going to take this rubber seal out right here. And we'll need to take the little orange end cap off. Hopefully no fluid will ooze out. Like that. Yep, it will. So, yeah, okay. I'll need to get a catch can below when we do this, because according to the instructions, we are going to mark the slip yoke to the drive shaft orientation with a paint marker. So we're going to put a paint marker basically, you know, here and here, because we have to unbolt this slip yoke from the drive shaft. Remove the slip yoke from the new drive shaft and insert it into the tail housing until the shoulder of the slip yoke is touching the rubber dust seal. And then we're going to set the drive shaft in place, rear first, and we're going to bolt it up to the differential, and then we'll bolt it up to the slip yoke. So let's go ahead and get started on that now. All right, I got the slip yoke from the drive shaft, had to unbolt it. And I got some transmission fluid down here in my container. I took that dust cover off there briefly and drained some. I just wanted to make sure my container was in the right spot. Y'all probably can't see me. I'm putting transmission fluid on the slip yoke, because as soon as I pop that out of there, it's gonna go, you know, down on the ground. So there's no rubber seal. There's just this thing. Must be a change in the product. But can you guys see what I'm doing? Yeah, I reckon. And so I'm gonna try to do this like my father-in-law did the electric heating element in the old water heater. It goes on the side, don't you know? Now keep in mind the water heater is full, so you have to be quick. So once you get the screws out, you yank it out, and the water comes out like, you know, Niagara Falls, and then shove the new water heater in there real quick, and you only lose, say, a gallon or something like that. Anyway, way easier than draining the whole water heater, but I digress. Let's see how well we can do here. There we go. All right. Now, got a little white paint on there to mark the insert it up to the shoulder, which I assume that I have. So hopefully I won't have to take that out again. That's the last time I have to do that. I think we put the drive shaft in next. What do you think about that? Let's do that. All right, let's go ahead and get our drive shaft in there. Let's see if we can make this happen. Make it happen, Captain. Let's see, we're gonna get this lined up here, like that. Back here on the other end, I've got this detachable flange already plugged into the transmission. So we're gonna see how well this goes. Yeah, probably. See if I can't get a bolt in the transmission end down here, just to hold this thing up. Y'all can't see me down here. That's all right though. I just got to get something to hold this transmission end down here so they won't come out. All right, now I got my paint marks lined up. I got to get these. Well, y'all can't do. Y'all in my way. Y'all got to move out the way. Y'all can't really see what I'm doing. But the little caps there got plenty of grease in them, don't you know? So I got to put some pressure on it to get them to sit down in the little recess. All right, need to get it inside the little flange there. And I believe we have accomplished that. The little flange that the needle bearing has to sit inside before you can put the strap across it. I think we've got it. Right up in there. See there? Not a whole lot of room to work with. That's what I'm dealing with. All right, we're golden. All I gotta do is put bolts in now. Well, I got to take this. My wrist is kind of achy still. It's getting a lot better after messing with that engine, but I got to have it for this. Let's see. Well, no. I thought maybe, nope, I can't get my arm up in there. Not happening. Just have to do it like this. Hold the bolt like a cigarette and slip it in there. And then we're gonna knock the strap off to the side. And we're gonna try again. So we got it in there enough to where we can actually pivot to make it a little easier on ourselves. So we got a little corner of the drive shaft universe to work with now. You got to work within the universe of discourse. That's discrete math talk from the computer science department. I don't know why I remembered that. All right, I'm gonna zip that one down with my fingers and twirl her around and get the other bolt in. And I got a long extension here, so I think I might be able to come in from the other side and start to tighten it down. It's a 7/16, don't you know? It's always a little nerve-wracking putting a drive shaft in because you're afraid you're going to drop it, you know? You're afraid you're going to drop it and bend it. And if you do that, you're screwed. You gotta send it off, have it straightened, or just buy another one, you know, because they're not the most robust things in the world. So I'm gonna go ahead and start these other 4 bolts down at the transmission end. I'll be right back. Man, I tell you what, these little Corvettes, man, up in here in this drive shaft area on the rear end, it is a tight situation, boy. You see how I caught that wrench? Got to think quick around this joint. I could probably put my battery wrench on here and quit doing all this archaic stuff. Let me do that. I guess I could use the wheel to turn this, couldn't I? That'd be too hard. It'd be too easy now, wouldn't it? All right, you get yourself back up in there, you cap, you. That one's gonna be difficult. All right, when it comes to drive shafts, sometimes you can be a little too gentle. I'm banging on the slip yoke going into the differential, don't you know? The way these U-joints fit together with these straps and needle bearings and all that kind of jazz, if they're a little cockeyed, they'll just go, no, I'm not going. And they give you bang on them a little bit. Sometimes you'll, sometimes you break them. And sometimes you make them do what they're supposed to do, you know. This one, this needle bearing did not want to get down in its little hole and play nice with the rest of the people. And that cured the problem. I guarantee. So if you're putting U-joints together and it's not going together quite right, even after you're done, if your U-joint is like barely moving, it's like really, really stiff, just give it a whack with a hammer. It'll get everything, you know, kind of like nestled down into its position where it really needs to be, you know. All right, well, I got everything snugged down and everything looks like it's in the right place. So I'm gonna go ahead and lower the car, and I think I'm gonna put it in gear since we have a clutch and we have a drive shaft. So let's try that. And then I'll put it back in the air and tighten these bolts up. I can't get a torque wrench in here anyway, but I don't want to be fiddle farting around with a pry bar trying to keep this from turning and all that crap. That just bugs me. So anyway, I'm going to do it the other way. I'll be back. All right, we got our drive shaft all tightened up back here, and we got it tightened up here. I put some red Loctite on the flange up here. This is very similar to what the Cadillac has, so I'm a little bit familiar with that. That's pretty cool. All right, one drive shaft installed. Let's move on to the next step. All right, we're doing the speedometer now, and we got this this new speedometer adapter. I guess this is for putting your stock cable into the new transmission. Anyway, they sent me a new gear, and inside the new gear there's a little tiny O-ring. I've already put it in there, and these two things slip together. You put the O-ring over that little part right there and slide it into the gear, and you have a little clip there, and you just put it together, no big deal. And then you take this, you take this, you slide the gear end up into the transmission, obviously, and they gave you a little bit of super lube. You'll lube up these O-rings here, and you take your speedometer cable and you screw it in there and put it all back together. So anyway, and then there's this little bracket here. That's the hold down bracket, and there is a little bolt right there that goes along with that. All right, let me go ahead and put this on the car, and I'll be right back. All right, speedometer cable comes out of the firewall up there, kind of pointed that way towards the passenger side. And I kind of just drooped it through between the body and the transmission, kind of looped it over the transmission, and comes out like that and around like this. So hopefully that'll be okay. Got that I got the new gear and the adapter and everything plugged into the transmission. Got the cable in there. Kind of a mundane thing, but hey, you know, got to know how fast you're going. All right, let's move on. All right, I think we're going to work on the reverse lights next. And, let me see. Let me get this hood release out of the way. All right. So that is the old reverse light. You can see it's basically just an old mechanical switch that is connected into kind of tacked onto the side of the old Borg-1 or Super T10 4-speed. And really nice wiring harness. I mean, this original wiring is huge, and it's in pristine condition is what I'm saying. So yeah, I'm not gonna dispense with any of that wire. This will have to be removed, clipped off somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I'll figure that out, and then we'll snake it around and we'll connect it into the pre-existing pigtail that Silversport transmission provided for us, which I have already plugged into the side of the transmission. We'll take a look at that next. All right, that's what I'm talking about right there. That's the reverse light pigtail. It basically just two prongs sticking out of the side of the transmission there, and it's just a switch, so it don't really matter which direction to hook these wires up to. So stock GM was a pink and a green, and we got a purple and a black for the new one. So hey, you know, just take your pick. All right, I'm gonna do some stripping, and then after that I'm gonna take the insulation off these wires and hook them up. So all right, I'll be back. All right, here we go. I didn't want to cut all that nice original stock wiring, so it's a little long. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is, I think what I'm going to do is tuck it in above the transmission, out of sight, and I will put some corrugated wiring loom over this, and then I'll tie wrap it to that little hole right there, and hopefully nothing bolts to that. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, so you'll see that basically it'll just disappear over the transmission. It'll sit up there out of sight in some corrugated wiring loom, and it'll be fine. So anyway, all right, let me take care of that. I'll be right back. All right, so that's what that looks like. That'll get tie wrapped, basically, you know, kind of like that. That looks pretty good. It kind of goes over the transmission, back around, it comes out right there, and goes up there to the rest of the wiring harness. So my only problem is I don't have any black tie wraps. All I got is those white ones, or like cream colored, and I ain't putting that on there because that'll just look dumb. So back to O'Reilly we go. All right, I just ordered a radiator, so that'll be in a few days. Meanwhile, I got to start working through some of these little foibles. Got a little metal brace here. I've already removed it, and it looks like that one. I'll have to redo that one too. So the bolt that went in here broke off, and the other holes are fine, but you know, I have to do a little cleanup in here. This is all just fiberglass stuff, so I'm not worried about that. This is what the bracket looks like that ties all that stuff together. It's, you know, the elements have not been kind to it because it faces the full brunt of, you know, all the weather. And so I have to put wire wheel. I'm going to have to pull out all the stops here, folks. Got to restore this piece. Don't really want to buy another one. Tap these holes out, and have to get that bolt removed right there. So wish me luck. I don't know. I might order new ones. I don't know. What do you guys think? All right, we're having a little rain shower outside, so got this stuff in here drying out. And I'm cleaning up the front end stuff because we got to put the core support back in before we can put the radiator back in clearly. So here's my core support, and really all I'm going to do to this, I've already done it. Cleaned it up with super clean, and I'm letting it dry, and then I'm just going to shoot it with a little black paint and put it back in the car. It's perfectly fine the way it is. There's nothing wrong with it. Just some minor, you know, surface rust like that. That ain't no big deal. So so interestingly, here is the front air dam. Still got the factory sticker tag on it. You can't see what was written on it, but it's there. So I thought to myself, well, I'm going to paint it and make it look nice and all that kind of stuff. Well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll tell you why. You see that? That's the overspray from the factory. I may paint my car at some point. You know, I may do that. But some things I just notice and I think to myself, man, that's pretty special. Anyway, the front air dam, this is the original overspray from the factory, and that's pretty cool. You got on that side, it's on both sides actually. And you can't really see this from, you know, you can't hardly see this at all. All you can do is see that little bit right there poking down. So you wouldn't even notice it. If you would have to bend over, lay on your back, and wash underneath there to actually see that. So no one's going to see this. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be functional. And I'm not going to worry with painting it because I don't want to cover that up. Although I think I may find a way to repair some of this. This is just age and wear due to vibration over the years. I think what I might do, I got some sheet steel. I'll cut a little sheet, you know, about yay wide. I'll paint that black and make a little backing plate for this before I put it back together. I'll probably do that. So, you know, just save it for a little while longer. So, all right, that's what I'm doing on this. More later. All right, so one trip around the wire wheel, one trip around the flap disc, and one 6 to 7 hour dose of sitting in vinegar. I just had a gallon of vinegar and I just cut the top open like that. All the hardware I pulled out of the front end, nuts and bolts and stuff, and these two brackets I've been dumping in there. And this is what they look like after I pulled it out and then put it on the wire wheel again just now. The vinegar does pretty good, actually. My evaporust is it's done. It's got too much debris in it. It doesn't work any longer. So I had some of this laying around because I derusted the oil pan, and anyway, it works pretty good. Doesn't work as good as the evaporust does when it's new, however. I'm going to put this back in there and then let it sit overnight, and then I'll wire wheel it again. Should be pretty clean when I'm done. So and then we'll give it a coat of paint, put it back on the car. So back in the jug for you. Come on now, there you go. Get on down in there. Night night. All right, it's the next morning, and just got that one out of there and put it on the wire wheel again. Got it all cleaned up. It's pretty good, pretty good. This is quite a bit of pitting, as you can see there. But we got probably, I don't know, 98% of the rust out of there, so that's fine. We'll prime this up with some Duplicolor self-etching, that green stuff, you know, that primer, that good primer I like. And then we'll do the gloss black engine paint, I think. And no one's ever going to see it anyway, but at least it won't rust anymore, so, or at least for a good long while. All right, and let me do the other one and all the rest of the hardware in there. And it's going to take a couple hours. All right, let's go ahead and get this core support back in this car here. I'm going to put a little WD-40 on these two little pieces of rubber. So from the factory, they had these two little pieces of rubber here. I guess to maybe kind of tighten up the way this thing fits in there. Really don't know what they're for. This one came off. I was going to try to reinsert the stock staples, but that was a worthless endeavor. So I just put a couple of rivets in there. And that seems to be fine. Move this ground cable out of the way. We'll see if we can keep from tweaking our back when we do this. Let me get this, what do you call it? Air conditioning cable out of the way. Cable. It's a hose, goofball. It's not a cable. Hey, look at that. Not too shabby, not too shabby, not too shabby. One of my viewers said, make sure you don't lean on the front of the car. It's like, whatever, whatever. All right, I'm gonna hold my mouth just right, fiddle fart, and finagle this thing back into the car. I'll be right back. All right, we got the two bottom bolts in there. That'll be our pivot point. And we should be able to get it from here. That rod that was in the middle, I loosened it at the top and got it out of the way because that was just silly. I'll put that in last, I think. Hopefully. Whoo, boy. Let's move on. Let me see if I can get these other 4 bolts in here. There's one in the middle and one on the top on each side. All right, so, you know, we got all the hardware cleaned up pretty well. A little surface rust left on there, but that's all right. That's basically what all the hardware looks like now, so that's pretty cool. Now, I will reiterate, the proper way, in my mind, to install this core support is to slide it in at an angle like this, nearly not touching the engine, but basically very shallow. And that will lead the bottom 2 holes in the bracket to just slip right in there so that you can screw in the bottom 2 fasteners. Now, once you've done that, you can pivot this into place to put the rest of the fasteners in. You do not attempt to slide this in like this, because the core support, the sides of it are actually curved like this, okay? That's just the way it is. That's just the way they designed it, I guess. So anyway, we're almost there. We've got a pivot, there we go. See there? And I pivoted it up to that point from underneath the car. So now I can put these in from the side. Got that one started. All right, I'm gonna get them all started before we tighten them all. So standard practice, don't you know? Man, I got so much junk in this shop. It is just ridiculous. Gotta lift up just a little bit. There we go. And we got it started. There we go. All right, we're golden now. I'm just gonna tighten up. I got 4 bolts in it. I'll put the middle one in, and I'll tighten everything up, and I'll continue on. And we can put these other 2 bolts in our hinge that we took out earlier to get the core support out. All right, let's get the other one kind of loosely started. Oh, fire. There's coolant on the floor. How did that get there? It leaked out of the overflow bottle when I wasn't looking. We'll get this lower. There we go. Got that rascal on there. That's just a 5/16 by 18 nut, so you don't want to crank on that too much. And let's tighten up these. These washers are kind of like big fat spring loaded things. I have no idea what the torque setting is on this, but we're just going to wing it. Those washers will do the work for us. Yeah, that'll be just fine. Man, oh man alive, let me tell you what, I was dreading this, and now it's done, except for, well, I mean, you know, the core support itself. We got to reconnect the ground cable that was up in here. So I have it in my hand. Now I got to find my hole where it was screwed in. How about that? All right, I've got to put this bracket back in place here. It's all derusted, hardware is derusted and all that kind of jazz. This is basically a reinforcement bracket, I suppose. And there's a rivet that goes through the fiberglass body and the metal bracket. It's right here, and it's covered up by the air dam. I've already done the one on the other side. I'm using, what are these? I'm using 3/16 inch rivets, and they seem to be the perfect size. Awesome. All right, let's get our air dam back in place. And see if we can figure it out. Let's see, let's just get a couple of fasteners started here. There's a bunch in it. All right, I gotta go fashion some pieces of steel to go on either side here to kind of strengthen this plastic here, so that'll take me a little while. I'm not going to put a whole lot into this right here right now because I'm not doing this. I'm doing the engine. If I decide to paint this car, I'll come back in here and clean this up, but for right now this is going to be perfectly fine. So all right, let me fab up some metal here for that, and then bolt this thing into place. I'll be back in a minute. All right, I got some really thin stuff here from my stash over there. I think it's like 24 gauge or something. It's, you know, it'll be fine for what we want to do. I just have to keep from cutting myself. Well, I'm gonna pre-drill the first hole. Ease up now, don't want to strip it. Let's do the other side. Now, I know that doesn't look very good with that piece of metal strapped there, but out of sight, out of mind. I reckon a 3 on the clutch is perfectly adequate for this. All right, so I'm just missing one because I broke it off. Gonna go right there. So I'll have to find that at O'Reilly, I guess. So, all right, air dam installed. Well, 99%. I got my Vivo or borescope camera here. I'm not sure this 3-foot thing will be long enough to get down in there and eyeball the tank, but I've been thinking to myself, after watching all these restoration videos online, I was like, well, I better look at my tank. Of course, this car's been inside. We shouldn't be having any problems here. This should be all right. All right, I don't think we're going to have any problem with that. So I think the gasoline in the tank is fine, but I may top it off before we do the test fire. I may even take a sample too. I'll get my little pump, take a little gasoline out, and then just put it in a jar, you know, take a look at it, make sure it's okay. And if I don't like what I see, I'll pump it out. I got one of those battery operated pumps. I'll pump it out and throw it in a can and, I don't know, dilute it somewhere else. Throw it in a different car, a gallon at a time or something. I don't know. And then, you know, put fresh gas in the car. So anyway, I just didn't want to fire this thing up on, you know, stale gas. So, all right, let's move on. All right, the pump's back on after I had removed it before I put the engine in the bay here. And got that back on the motor, and got the hard line loosely connected up there. So I'll probably have to tweak that a little bit to point it to the carburetor. But well, right now I got the plugs and the plug wires on. This was pretty close. So went ahead and got some of these plug wire heat shield flexible things off Amazon, and I'm gonna go ahead and put those on now, and then go ahead and put my heat shields back on the motor and put the dipstick tube back in. Up next, gotta see about starting to get this radiator in this car. So I got a brand new set of foam seals for this whole thing, and I have no idea how they work. Let's see, that's kind of curvy, isn't it? They go like that, or I don't know. Gotta figure it out. I remember like one piece went, well, I don't know, like there or somewhere, or no, there, I don't know. And you had to order this little push pin set along with it. Where's the box? Got this from Top Flight Automotive. They said you must order this set of push pins, plastic push pins, along with it. I have no idea why. This is adhesive. Well, except for these. Maybe they're for these. Not really sure. Anyway, let me figure this out. I'll be back. All right, I think I got it figured out here. I went inside and remembered that I have the assembly manual for these cars. I bought it like a long time ago. Right after I bought the car, as a matter of fact. I've had it like 25 years. I've only looked at it briefly on a handful of occasions, but I pulled out the appropriate parts diagrams for the radiator assembly, and I'll put them in the video for your reference right here. Alright, so with that information, I'm going to go ahead and get busy and apply these seals. And I think maybe these push pins were related to earlier versions, and maybe not the 78. I wasn't quite sure from the diagram. So anyway, let me get busy and see what I can come up with. Alright, we got the radiator and the fan shroud nestled into place there. Got everything bolted down. Got these brackets on here up top, and got the fan shroud connected to the radiator. Everything's nice and solid now, and looks pretty good. As a reminder, in order to get the fan shroud in a C3 Corvette, the radiator has to come out. Okay? So I put the radiator in there about a half an hour ago, and I tried to get the fan shroud in. I'm like, oh yeah. So anyway, I got my son out here, and we pulled the radiator back out. Then put the fan shroud in, then put the radiator in. That's the right way to do it. So just don't mess around with anything else. Got the lower rad hose on, got that all tightened up. And the only thing I don't like about the Champion radiator is the 1 3/8 port here on the driver's side, because it's just, you know, this is not right. The original radiator came with 1.5, and when you buy a hose for this car, it's 1.5. So that's what this is. And this just kind of slips over there. And I called Champion. They said, "Oh, just tighten it down an extra few notches with the clamp. It'll be fine." I'm like, well, that's not the way I roll, but I'm going to try to get over it. If you buy a much more expensive radiator, they'll have the 1.5 right here. But this is cheaper, and they're making it to accommodate a broader range of years. So that's what you get. Anyway, the radiator quality itself seems fine. So anyway, I'm going to try to figure out how to make this hose work here. By the way, this is AC Delco off Rock Auto, and it's made in the USA. So how about that? All right, let me get this hose on here, and then we'll move on. All right, moving on here. Got the proportioning valve removed from the car, and the reason I did this is because I had disconnected the master cylinder ports, and they're, you know, on the top here. And when I started grinding on the firewall, fiberglass dust dripped down in there unbeknownst to me at the time. And then I got to thinking about it, and I started looking around in there, and I was like, what's all this dust? And I started looking at this thing, and I'm like, oh boy, I bet that thing's full of dust. So yeah, good call on removing this, because it had dust all in it. So I washed it out with brake clean and removed that big port there, and there's a little actuating valve down in there, and had to find there's the original O-ring here, and that one's not quite right. I think I found the proper one here. I got a 5/8 by 13/16 by 3/32, so that's the closest one I could find. Anyway, I'm going to give it a shot and see if that'll work. So got the new O-ring on there. Go ahead and put that back in there, and put this thing back on the car. That O-ring was too big. This 13/16 OD was too big. Anyway, I dropped down to 11/16. That's still a little too big. A 5/8. I'm going to try that one next. I think that one's going to be on point. So let me lubricate the inside of that with some .5 brake fluid, which I don't have. I put .5 in the system many years ago. Anyway, and nothing else mixes with it, so I need to go get some. One more thing. Back to O'Reilly. All right, we got our proportioning valve back in service there. Well, not in service, but installed at least. Again, this little part right here actually screws out, so be mindful of that. I'm glad that I just was wrenching on this and not thinking about that and loosened that. Good thing I did, because there's an O-ring in there. It was all flat from being 46 years old. So we got a new O-ring in there, so it's all good. And I cleaned this thing up with brake clean, and got all the ports cleaned out and sprayed out and blew out and everything. The smaller connections are 7/16 and the bigger ones are 9/16. And it looks like I may not even need to do any clearancing on the clutch master cylinder, although I'll have to go up top and check and see if I got any space. I may tweak it a little bit and give myself a little extra room there. All right, let's move on. All right, we got the master cylinder all bolted up here, and did a little finagling with the clutch master cylinder reservoir line here, and got some clearance between there and the brake line, so that worked out well. I filled this up with .5. I'm going to need to bleed the system, but I'm going to need more .5, so I'm going to get on the big Amazon site and order some, because it's too expensive to buy locally. I'm going to need a lot more than just the small bottle that I used to fill this up. So I'm going to get some more of that, and then we'll do our brake bleeding. I cleaned out the inside of this guy a little bit. Had a little bit of surface rust down the bottom, but it wasn't bad. I don't know. We're gonna have to find out the status of the brakes. The brakes hadn't been used in a couple of years, so we may have to buy some new stuff. Might have to buy all this crap. It may have just rotted out inside. I don't know. We're just gonna have to find out. So when I start bleeding the brakes, then we'll find out. So, but for now, we got some fluid in there, and we're gonna call that done for now. So we'll do brakes later on. I wanted to move ahead and work on the ignition system next. Got the distributor into the engine there. And of course I had two scribe marks on my distributor and on my intake manifold. Excuse me. And we've got number one is right here. Normally it would be right here, but I've got it moved over here to accommodate the clearance for the vacuum advance. So I think right now all that's left to do on the distributor is to put the hold down bracket on and put the wires on. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that next. All right, so you know, it's a thing that when you mix old parts and new parts together, you have complications. So one thing I didn't realize or take into account of or even think about when I ordered these heads was the fact that there's no exhaust crossover port in the heads. And since I was planning to reuse my Quadrajet and the hot air choke, the hot air choke has this stove, they call it, and it slips down in there. It's supposed to go into the hole in the head, and that heats this tube up, and these tubes go up and they connect to the choke, and that's how the choke detects when the engine is warmed up. So that's not going to happen because there's no hole in the head there. But there is a crossover passage across underneath the inside the intake manifold, and I looked in through there with my borescope camera, and it kind of goes back in there like that underneath where the carburetor is. So this may sound a little unconventional, but I had it in my brain as well. Why can't I just take my torch and take these two tubes and bend them out that way, so that when I put this in here, it snakes underneath there like that, so I can retain the use of my hot air choke. Yes, I could upgrade the carburetor to an electric choke, and there's a kit out there. It's like $100 to do that. It's a little bitty thing, you know, you hook a wire to it, and yeah, I don't know. I like a hot air choke. I don't really like an electric choke. That's just my opinion, you know, for what it's worth. So I'm going to try to kind of cobble this together and continue to use my hot air choke, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Don't know, but I'm going to try. And if I fail, I'll just go ahead and reluctantly switch over to an electric. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and bend these tubes here and see if I can make this thing work. All right, 14,000 million heat, bend, test, heat, bend, test cycles completed. And we now have a modified hot air choke that slipped into place, and that goes underneath the channel there inside the intake manifold. So now it won't be as hot as the exhaust, but I think it'll still work. I think it might take a little longer for the choke to come on, so we might take the choke setting on the carb and probably set it maybe a notch lean or something like that. Not sure how that's going to work out. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work, I'll put an electric choke on it. Actually, there's no real reason to put a gasket there now, because before this actually went into the exhaust passage, but now that's not the case. So really there's no need to put a gasket back on there, although I do have the original gasket, and I'll put it on there, but there just won't be any need. Anyway, enough of all that. Let's get the hot air choke and the carb back on the engine. All right, let's work on some side pipes. I got some other parts on order that need to come in before I do anything else in the engine bay. So we can do this for now, I guess. What are we going to do? Man, those things are big, aren't they? All right, so I got the car. The car is on a little angle here, by the way. So I was just sitting here eyeballing that, trying to figure out what's going on with this. That side pipe is just up off of the lift arm, and this one is sitting on it. I've got some wood underneath the, yes, I know you're not supposed to put wood underneath here, but I need to go get me some new 2-inch adapters for my lift with a proper rubber pad on it to accommodate these side pipes. Hadn't done that yet. Shame on me. Anyway, so the car is at a slight rake because of the wood on the lift arm over there, so that I don't put any pressure on the exhaust. Now, enough of all that. What did I do? I spent $46, 50 bucks on some damn bolts and some rubber. I could have made this. It just chapped my ass buying this kit. Hooker side exhaust mounting kit. So basically what you have is these T-headed shaped bolts, and they go in these holes here in the frame right there, right? And you go one there and one there, and pretty much, you know, pretty simple really. You just slide the pipe over the other end down there, and then there's a little adjuster bracket on the back side you can't see. You put another bolt through there and tighten that up once you get it inserted as far as it needs to be. And then you put these bolts here, and boom, you hang your exhaust. It's pretty simple really. So, all right, let me fiddle with this for a little bit, and I'll be back. All right, I had to put some more wood, make it even safer back here in the rear part to, you know, get the whole car level. And been messing around with the little level here, and you know, it's a little off, but whatever. We'll tweak it and get it right. That's not really what concerns me. What concerns me is, you know, that's the hole where it's supposed to be, and that's, you know, you get it right. That's a problem. So. I don't know what I'm going to do here. I guess what I really need to do is figure out what the true elevation is supposed to be, how far up they're supposed to be. Can't do anything about the header. It's there. It ain't going no place. Can't be bending on it, you know. I'm not really sure what to do. I guess, of course, you know, you got the panels, the decorative panels are going to cover this up, right? So, and I guess they come down and they nestle down in this bracket. So maybe I just extend these brackets a little bit with some, you know, weld on some steel or something and make a new hole. Maybe do that. Or, you know, put another hole in the frame. I don't really want to put another hole in the frame. I'd rather just extend the bracket on these cheap-ass headers. So that'd probably be the smarter thing to do. But anyway, have you ever installed side pipes before? Never in my life, but I'm going to figure it out. Stay tuned. All right, we just keep going back and forth, don't we? All right, we got the carburetor on there finally. And I've got our repurposed or modified hot air choke installed. So I got the original gasket in there. It doesn't really matter. Got this painted up with some aluminum paint. It's not going to get as hot as the stovepipe did when it was down in the exhaust system. May not even work. That's an entirely good possibility. QuadratechPower.com has got some electric choke conversions for like 25 bucks. So if this doesn't work, I'm going to call them up and order one of their kits. I kind of want this to work, you know, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Started welding up some new bracket modifications for the side pipes. We'll get to that here just shortly. But my welder ran into a spot of bother. Got to order some parts for that daggum thing. That'll be in tomorrow. So can't weld right now. So I'm kind of down on that front. So I got a new filter capacitor coming in for the tachometer. It bolts to the manifold right there. That's supposed to keep your tachometer in a nice smooth state. I've noticed over the several years, on occasion, this tachometer will it would kind of jerk around a little bit, and I was like, that's odd. I never really thought much about it because it always worked. Recently, this wire here, where it connects to the capacitor, it just broke off. So it's probably been a loose connection for a long time. So I got a new one of those coming in from Top Flight Automotive. Corvette site. I think they bought out or merged with Corvette America or something. Anyway, they have a lot of Corvette stuff. So I've got that coming in. Then we'll hook up the ignition wire, the little pink one down there. I still need to connect that. I'll connect that up right there. This connector from the base of the distributor is connected up here. I'm just kind of going through stuff with a sanity check. When I get ready to fire this thing, I'm not going to connect the vacuum advance. I'll plug it off after the motor's run for a little while. Then I'll connect up the vacuum advance. So I got the PCV connected up here. I think I'm going to put a new PCV valve in, and that's the original PCV valve from '78. It rattles, but who knows if it works, you know. Saw a guy on YouTube who said, look, the way you test the thing is take the dipstick out of your oil thing right here, all right, and take a little piece of paper about that square piece of paper, about like that, just enough to cover the tip of the oil dipstick tube. Crank the engine, and the paper should just have a very slight amount of suction on it and stay there. So interesting test. So I may try that later. This vacuum line here, I have to go look at the. I just mimicked it. I just recreated it. Just because it was there, you know, and I couldn't recall what it went to, and I was like, well, I'll just put a new line on it and then, you know, deal with it later. And all this stuff goes back to the charcoal canister down there. And these two, this is the draw on the charcoal canister, and then this one is the PCV, and then this one goes also to the canister as well. This one is, I think this is one of the ones that connected to the thermally controlled valves. The three systems that were controlled by a thermally controlled vacuum switch were the EFE. I removed it years ago because it just rattled. It rattle. And it's an exhaust crossover thing, right? It would close off this leg of the exhaust and make the exhaust actually come up through this passage where this stove is for the choke and would go across the intake manifold and go across to the other side. And the whole goal was to heat up the engine as quickly as possible, especially in cold environments. So anyway, that EFE, early fuel riser, that thing was removed years ago. I got it in a box over there. That box right over there. It's over in that box right there. So I got all the stuff that originally came with this car. The smog pump, which has since been removed. So basically, the smog pump would not engage until the engine got up to temperature. So, and the EGR, which was right here. So all three of those systems have been removed. I said earlier that it was the distributor, but that's not true. That is actually only for the Cadillac. The Cadillac has a thermally controlled vacuum advance. So anyway, enough of that. But I want to retain some of the stock looks, so that's kind of the reason why I'm doing it this way. I know I'm kind of picking what I want to remain stock, and I'm picking what I want to go, right? And well, some of this early emission stuff is just, well, it's just useless. Especially with a car that's not driven very often. The one thing that is good, or the two things rather, is the charcoal canister that keeps the engine from smelling like gasoline, and the PCV, which I think everyone would agree that's really the best one. It elongates the service life of your engine. It keeps your engine oil clean. So that's a good one to keep around. All right, there you go. Got the new tachometer filter lead in from Top Flight Automotive. So it comes with tinned ends of the wire, and it's up to you to remove the stock connectors from the car. If you don't know how to do this, there's a little bitty clip on that connector on the, when you remove it to get this plastic bit off, you slip a little something tiny down in there, paper clip maybe, that's it, yeah, and then you flip the little lever and the lead comes out. It's pretty much the same way with the other one, except it goes in from the side. If you see that little piece of metal on the left hand side there, you push it over to the right and that will slide out of there. But these are new. I just got through putting them in there. Not a huge deal. Doesn't look original. I mean, it's the same shape, but it's shiny. So, but the motor's shiny, so that's okay. Now the new one came with a ground wire, and the old one didn't. I'm not sure why. So anyway, but it gets bolted to the intake manifold. I guess the reason why they sent you the ground wire was in some cars, maybe this thing was bolted to some fiberglass. But in this car, it's bolted to the intake manifold, so there's really no need for the ground wire, I guess. But we'll just take the ground and we'll hook it up to the bolt that goes onto the manifold, and that'll be good to go. So let me go ahead and hook this up. The white end goes towards the car, and the brown end goes on the distributor. Got the battery power hooked up. Got the tachometer filter hooked up with that brand new filter capacitor bolted in place down there. Look, yes, I know the wires. Yes, well, guess what? That's the way it is from the factory. Okay, so just get over it. Plus, there's a great big cover over this whole mess, so you can't see any of that. There's a great big old shield. It's an RF shield over the distributor, so you won't be able to see any of that nonsense anyway. So don't worry about that. All right, I'm having to do so much custom fab work on these side pipes that I didn't want to lose sight of what I was doing. Anyway, so I got this one bolted up permanently. It's done. I'm going to shoot it with some more black VHT exhaust paint after I'm done here, because I had it on and off here about 10 times. So that, and I scuffed up my high gloss paint job on here. So I'll tape this off and paint the exhaust, and then I'll tape this off and paint the high gloss on the trim and kind of spruce it up just a little bit. But the pipe is level. I know you can't really see that in the picture, but if you put a level on it, it's level. So I had to put some extensions on these brackets. You can see the hole right there. Well, what we had to do was I had some angle iron and did some measuring, and this is what I come up with. So this is, I guess, 3/16, a little thicker than the stuff that's on the exhaust, but that's not going to hurt anything. Did a little measuring, and this is what I'm doing right now. So what I'll do is I'll weld this to the curved end of the old bracket on the old cheap exhaust pipe. So I got to drill a hole in this one, and then we're going to do some welding. I'll show you what the new brackets look like when we're done. And that's what that looks like. So just finished welding that up. Of course, I'm going to clean it up with the flap disc there. and make it look a little nicer. So of course I'm going to weld both sides. The metal's pretty thick, and the other ones I did worked out really well. I thought about filling in the hole on the old bracket, but I'm like, whatever. The other one over there is just, it's rock solid. I'm just not going to bother with that. All right, we're getting closer all along here. So got a remote start switch, some fuel line, and one of those see-through fuel filters. We'll set up a temporary fuel hose arrangement here so I can see the fuel, you know, as we get closer to, you know, whenever we decide to start this thing up, hopefully today. For right now though, I think I'm gonna go ahead and fill up the system with coolant. And I got to thinking, I said, well, these hoses nowadays are unbelievable. Okay, well, there you go. I don't guess there was any worry about that vacuum line leaking. Just give me strength. Can we just do the thing that we wanted to do? No, because that won't work either. So I want to go ahead and fill this thing up with coolant. Of course, I put the hose clamp in a stupid location, so I can't remove the bolt. But I'll get over it. We're going to fix that right now. I want to go ahead and fill the engine as best I can with coolant to avoid any, you know, pockets or bubbles and stuff like that, right? So, all right, I got 6 gallons of premix here, so let's get busy. This 3/8 inch pre-bent hose that comes off of the overflow bottle is original to the car, but unfortunately it does not fit the smaller overflow fitting on the radiator, so we'll need to change that out. Can't get attached to everything, Harris. All right, gallon number 3. Actually, you know what? This is a lot easier than trying to fill this radiator right here in the corner. Why would you just not do it like that? All right, well, I got 3.5 in the motor over there, and I thought I'd just start trying to put some in the radiator now. I'm gonna spread the love, don't you know? All right, I reckon we better change this overflow line here before we go any further with filling up this system. Normally I would just run this razor blade down along the side of there and just slice her off, but this is a plastic tank, and I don't want to slice my tank. Okay, you know, just one complication after another, you know, when you have aftermarket stuff mixed with factory stuff. So 5/16 hose on the radiator, 3/8 on the overflow tank. Of course I probably could replace this, but I'm not. So I found a little adapter here in my shop. So I got some 5/16 hose there, 3/8 there. Gonna make a new hose, you get it. So let me go ahead and tidy this up real quick, then we'll finish filling our system with coolant. All right, you knew it couldn't be this easy. Yeah, I decided, I'm not gonna take that out of there. That's a stupid decision. Look down in there. Look at that mess. 1978 mess is what that is. Holy cow. All right. Got to clean this up before we put this rascal back in action. So I'm going to get down in there with some super clean and some napkins and whatever else I can come up with and clean this thing up. All right, I loosened up the AC bracket and moved it down. See what that does. I just yanked this thing out earlier. With reckless abandon, but going back in, I figured I'd be a little more kind to it because I don't want to break it. Just like everything is in the way. And by the way, look at this. I never knew this was here. It's like a little vent. Nothing connects to it, but it's like an overflow vent. Never knew it was there until I pulled this tank out. All right, we got her in place there. I'm gonna put these 3 bolts in through the fender well and tighten it up real quick. Almost there. Little WD-40 to ease our hose installation. Where's my clamp? There it is. All right, so I was looking at the service manual, actually the assembly manual, and I just broke my 46-year-old coolant reservoir cap with the original sticker on it. Awesome. Yeah, I'll pick up one on the internet, I reckon. But anyway, they were saying, the service manual was saying, on the initial fill, like at the factory when you're putting the car together, it said to go ahead and fill the reservoir bottle up to the hot zone. Maybe they were trying to account for air pockets during the initial assembly. Don't know. Let's see. I think that's 4 gallons so far, and I suppose the other 1.25 gallons will be in the upper radiator hose and in the heater core. So, yeah, that's about to. Did you guys hear that click? And then the bang? That's called lightning. So that was about a 1/4 mile away, wherever it was. It was like click and then bang. So yeah, pretty close. All right, let's move on. All right, this is what I got going on now. Getting kind of late. Boy, this thing's nasty, isn't it? Draining out the fuel. I've already done 1 5-gallon bucket, and it was pretty yellow. It still smelled good. It smelled good, like good gas, but it had a nice yellow tinge to it. So, all right, there you go. That's what the gasoline looks like. It's coming out of the Corvette. Got a yellow tinge to it. It's not. I guess it's not horrible. It smells fine. It doesn't smell bad at all. It just smells like gas, but got a little yellow tinge to it. So I'm glad we're taking it out of there. And I think the old 34-gallon tank in the truck can handle it. I think I had about 1/4 of a tank, which is a little more than 8 gallons in here. So I think it'll be okay. And before I fire the truck, I'll go ahead and put some more gas in there, some more fresh as well. So, all right, and get yourself one of these stick pumps, man. They're awesome. This thing sucked up 5 gallons in like, I don't know, 2 minutes. It was awesome. I don't know, I picked it up for like $6 at some shop somewhere. I put 5 gallons of it in the truck, and I'll probably take this batch and put it over there in the Cadillac. Anyway, I just don't want to run this old gas through this Corvette on this first crank. So, all right, went up to Advance and got a brand new Die-Hard battery. I know they're all the same, you know, the Duralast, the Everstart, the Master Pro, all those different brand names, and Die-Hard now. They're all made by Clarios or whatever. It's the same battery. I have a sentimental thing about Die-Hard. But we got, you know, light action. That's not mice damage. That was just me rummaging around under the dash when I was working on the clutch. So whew, that'll clean up real nice. It's just dusty and nasty, and we'll have to put the console back together and all that kind of stuff. But right now I'm just trying to get the engine fired. I can't recall what the, is it 30 seconds? The courtesy, there's a timer in there. Oh, by the way, when I bought the car in '97, I bought it at a Chevrolet dealership, and they sold me a security alarm. You know, back in the day when you had to buy a separate, you know, security alarm, and so I did. I opted for a separate security alarm. I think they charged me a couple of $100 to put it in. It's been all right. It's annoying, but you know, because it just doesn't work as well as the modern ones. But I'm going to wait and see if my light goes out. And there it goes. The courtesy timer is still working, and so is the 27-year-old security system. And while we're on the subject of security, let's just see. Yep, the stock system still works. That was the stock security alarm. Doesn't do anything but just honk the horn, but that rascal still works. 46 years, baby. All right, we're back with 5 gallons of fresh gas. Yeah, that's a little cleaner. It's not yellow like the other stuff was. I think there was still a little remnants of yellow in the line there when I turned it on, but Yeah, that's way nicer than it was. So, all right, gonna put 5 gallons of fresh fuel in the old Silver Bullet. What a day, what a day. All right, so it's Saturday, August 31st. And I just want to get the security alarm disarmed. It went beep, anyway, because I was just in the door. I was just inside turning on the radio and make sure everything worked. I got the alternator back on, pretty mundane, but you know, you gotta have it. Power steering is not there. Just it's disconnected, no belt, no compressor over there. So, you know, I don't need those right now because I don't have a steering box yet. So, waiting on that. Got my vacuum lines on the front of the carburetor capped off with, those are golf tees. It works great for capping off stuff. I have a temporary fuel filter in here. This is not a permanent arrangement by any stretch of the imagination, and wanted to make sure that I wasn't sending any garbage to the Quadrajet. Now the Quadrajet does have a filter, but it's right here and you can't see it. And you know, if it gets gummed up and the motor, you know, runs out of fuel and you're like scratching your head trying to figure out why. So, you know, it hadn't been cranked in a couple of years, so I'm gonna go with this guy right here. So once I know that, once we get it fired and everything's running fine, I'll take this out and I'll put there's like this Z-shaped fuel line that goes from the line down to the pump for the Corvette. It's a special hose. So anyway, but for now we're gonna run this. I guess the last thing I need to do is put the fan on the front of the motor, but I'm pretty tired and that's easy, so I'll do that in the morning. Well, all right, I think I covered all the bases. And in the morning, I'm gonna fill up that bowl with gasoline and probably take that rubber hose off of there and prime that hose back to the pump. Give her a little snort down the old snout. And this engine should fire like that. Now, there could be something wrong that I've missed. I don't think I have, but we're gonna find out in the mornings. All right, I got the clutch fan reinstalled. I was gonna use a remote start switch, but it was such a pain in the ass to install on that high torque racing starter that I'd said, to heck with it. We're gonna crank it the old fashioned way, the manly way, with the key. So, I just didn't have the patience to fiddle with it. I was like tired of screwing around with it. I'm like, all right, that's enough of this crap. So anyway, let's put spill some on the carburetor too while you're at it, dummy. I don't know how much it holds. That's probably good enough. And we'll give it a little snort. Should be enough to fire the motor, provided everything is, you know, good to go. But right now, what I'm going to do is say a prayer, take a look at my timing mark one more time, check the oil one more time. I'm not even going to look in the carburetor. I'm just going to assume they work. And we have to disable the alarm. There we go. And give it a quick bump to make sure that we're not in gear. All right. Let's turn the radio off. How about that? Probably, you know, it's a fuel thing, right? It's got to suck fuel from the tank. So anyway, it's firing. Actually, it's taking fuel already. Well, that's pretty cool. Of course, this filter's kind of going up there. It may be struggling a little bit. It's not really a way to put one of these fuel filters on these cars, to be honest. All right, let's just give it the pump. Do it like a man. All right, I think we need to check our timing. Her little pop there. All right, my timing had slipped out there a little bit. It wasn't quite right, so got the distributor moved and got it tightened down a little bit there. She can't move. There we go. Do our security properly this time. Come on, baby, be good to me. Well, I got oil pressure. Went way over 40 in just that little bit. It's probably a carburation issue. That quadrojet may not be happy. Yeah, I checked my accelerator pump squirters just now. They work perfectly. And I increased the idle on the choke there. So well, let's just keep at it and see what happens here. And this stupid security alarm that I've been telling myself I was going to remove for years and hadn't done it yet. Let's just get a little more aggressive with it. I figured that side pipe was going to rattle, and it does. I think that's timing. Well, I'm sorry you missed that, but I had to advance the timing to get it to stay running. And I've got a little over 50 pounds of oil pressure. My tack is working. Yeah, I'm only running at 900 RPM though. I gotta check my timing. As you may or may not know, the roller valve train does not require a break-in. So just put that out of your head. I'm not going to worry with it. All right, I got heat in the lower rad hose. I got heat in the upper rad hose. So my thermostat has opened, but my temperature gauge ain't doing the temperature thing. So in the car. I'm not sure my hacked up hot air choke is going to work, but we'll find out. I heard a rattle coming from over here, but I think it was this that vacuum thing bumping against the valve cover. Now there's a tick over here. Probably got a push rod lash, probably needs some adjustment. All right, we got some coolant right there on the top of the water pump where that big plug is, you know, on the top. So I got a little drop right there. Let me it's a big old Allen hex head. Let me see if I can't tighten that up. Testing. All right. So the alternator is working. I got 13.8 volts here. I got 176 on my thermostat housing. 700. 700. 660, 630, that one's pretty hot. Yeah, they're all about 650 to 700, so that's good. Won't run with the choke knot on. That's kind of weird. So apparently the, the choke is detecting the engine getting warm because it's open. Even when I give it a shot of gas, it won't close now. So. She wanted some timing. Come on, baby. What are you doing to me? Something wrong with that carburetor, that's for sure. All right, folks, I'm gonna wrap this video up. The idle circuit is, I think something's a little off here on the idle circuit. So finally I got my timing set to 12 degrees at 900 RPM. I had to have my idle screws, you know, the throttle blades had to be open quite a bit to make that happen. And that was with the VAC Advance blocked off there. And anyway, so I got the time in 12 degrees at 900, so that's where it needs to be. The choke is not on now. It seems to be working, but the idle circuit in the carburetor, I think it may be plugged up or clogged up, or I don't know. I don't know what's wrong. I'm gonna have to kind of do some head scratching. But the engine sounds good. My engine coolant temperature gauge in the car is not working. Not sure what's going on there. May have a break in that wire. That sensor I bought may not work. I don't know. But I used my temp gun, and I got, you know, normal temperatures on my thermostat and on my intake and on my rad hoses and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's running at the proper temperature, so we're okay. All right, folks, we're going to call it right there for the weekend. It's Labor Day weekend, and my advice to you is to shut YouTube off and go cook some hamburgers with your family. I appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release a new video, don't forget to click that little bell down below. You guys have a good one, and remember to enjoy restoring your classic C3 Corvette. And don't be afraid to make a few changes along the way.